My fellow Sadzaitas, you are watching a group of exemplary youth who have taken it upon themselves to resist the 2030 madness. Is Zimbabwe going to allow Mnangagwa to mutilate the constitution in his quest for a life presidency? Did we not learn anything from Robert Mugabe's tenure as president of Zimbabwe? A 2030 Taramba. We say no to the Mnangagwa dynasty. My fellow Sadzaitas, slay queens and bingers, socialites, papalites, wasnamalites, varikudyarais, nevasnamarais. I welcome you to the special report. In my last video, I gave you guys a detailed explanation on Mnangagwa's 2030 project and what it means for Zimbabwe. We found out how ED is planning to extend not only his presidential term, but also the term of office for all MPs, senators and councillors. I showed you guys this motion. What you are looking at is a motion to amend the Zimbabwean constitution. It has already been prepared by ZANU-PF and will be tabled in parliament in the near future. And just in case you don't believe me, here is the ZANU-PF mouthpiece, the Herald, confirming that the government of Zimbabwe is now ready to amend the constitution. And as I already explained, the plan is not for Mnangagwa to run again for president in 2028. No, the plan is actually to get rid of elections, meaning if this plan goes through, there won't be any elections in 2028. The plan is to amend the constitution to allow for Mnangagwa to remain president until 2033 without going through an election. That means skipping the 2028 elections. But Mnangagwa realized that this was not going to be a walk in the park. He feared a possible resistance from his own ZANU-PF MPs, a party which now has a 2/3 majority thanks to the sellout-in-chief, Sengezo Chabangu. So, in order to insulate his plan against a possible sabotage, ED devised a plan to appease parliamentarians, if not bribing them, by offering to have their term of office also extended together with his. Now, I'm sure you can agree that that was an offer most MPs and senators can't say no to. Plus, there is no way Zimbabwe would have had parliamentary and council elections in 2028 and suspend the presidential election. So, by offering to extend the term of office for parliament and local government, ED was actually killing two birds with one stone. Number one, he gets to have his coveted term limit extension. Number two, he gets to avoid a presidential election in which he, by the way, has always struggled to get over the line, having gotten 50.3 in 2018 and 52.6 in 2023. In contrast, Robert Mugabe participated in 5 presidential elections and he averaged 76%. The difference is in light years. So, it makes sense why ED wants to get rid of the 2028 elections, because he can't even win a rigged election convincingly. So, if he struggles to win an election in which he has the full support of his party and parliamentary candidates, imagine how he's going to perform in a situation where the parliamentary candidates of his party campaign against him in a Bora Msango strategy reminiscent of the Mugabe 2008 electoral loss. This is the scenario ED is trying to avoid. If his 2030 project is to succeed, he must have the full support and backing of his party. But Tafi, are you really sure that ED doesn't trust his ZANU-PF MPs to the point of working out a deal like this? Well, thank you for asking. Fortunately, I don't have to answer that question. I will let ED himself answer that question.
I get intelligence that some of those who have won these primary elections, they have two minds. They have joined the ZANU-PF wagon, using various tricks, money included, to be elected with a possible view that once in the parliament they will band together and move a motion of impeachment. You must realize that the Constitution provides the basis of impeachment, and such basis must be fulfilled before impeachment proceedings begin. Secondly, our Constitution provides a tool, an instrument, to check out from Parliament any member whom we think is not ZANU-PF anymore.
Now, in case you didn't understand this video, let me provide a context. You see, in 2018, 7 months after ED had taken over from Mugabe via a coup, Zimbabwe went to the polls, our so-called harmonized elections. About 90 of the ZANU-PF MPs who had been in parliament since 2013 under Robert Mugabe lost the ZANU-PF primary elections. Therefore, ZANU-PF had at least 90 new candidates for the 2018 elections. Now, what ED was saying in this video is that he received intelligence that the ZANU-PF parliamentary candidates for the 2018 general election had plans to remove him from power once they got elected. Remember, besides the general election, Parliament is the only institution that can legally remove a Zimbabwean president from power through an impeachment process. So, ED had received intelligence that his MPs were plotting to impeach him, meaning to fire him, to remove him from power. The Justice Minister, Ziyambi, also took time to warn those plotting to impeach ED. He said, "Regeraya komana. Hapamiwe miwe."
Hakuna munhu anogona kubvisa president kana ZANU-PF isina kuposora. Ukaenda kuparliament uchifunga kuti unobatana nevamwe waiti hamene hanzi zvinonzi impeachment, kunongonyorwa tsamba yekukurikola toita by election. Hazvibvire maitiro atakaita mutemo wacho.
So, there you have it. ED has never really trusted his MPs since 2018. It's been a balancing act for him, occasionally and gradually flashing out those he suspected of wishing him harm. But that's the thing about autocrats, isn't it? They always see enemies even where they don't exist. At this point, it is prudent for me to add that ED suspended elections in his own party in December 2017. Everyone's tenure of office in ZANU-PF was extended by 5 years from 2017 to 2022 because ED did not trust the ZANU-PF structures at the time. He still feared the influence of the G40. He wanted to first calibrate the ZANU-PF structures to his liking before any elections could be held. It is also worth noting that ED didn't ascend to the ZANU-PF presidium via an election. He became a vice president in 2014 via an appointment by his president, Robert Mugabe. He became a president in 2017 via a coup d'etat, and when he eventually participated in an election as president in 2018, he only got a 50.3% in a disputed election, like I said earlier. I am simply trying to show you the history of President Mnangagwa with elections, which explains, when you understand all of this, why it's not surprising that he wants to suspend the 2028 elections. Winning an election is a hard thing for ED. He has always struggled, even in his days as an MP. Who remembers Blessing Chebundo, the man who defeated ED in Kwekwe in the year 2000 and 2005, prompting Robert Mugabe to move ED to the rural constituency of Chirumanzi Zimbabwe. Plus, ED is mindful of what happened in Senegal in 2012. You see, Abdoulaye Wade amended the constitution of that country to allow himself to run for a third term, and guess what happened? He lost the election. So, with all the drama of the last election, the SADC Observer Mission report, the wind of change in the region, the way he always struggles to win elections, and the possibility of a Boramsango by his parliamentary candidates, ED fears the 2028 election. That election could be the toughest he has faced to date as president. So, in order to guarantee his continued stay in power, there must be no election. And as I explained in my last video, he is also flirting with the opposition MPs in order to create an illusion that the whole country is behind his 2030 agenda. Well, of course, I probably shouldn't call them opposition MPs because if we are to be honest, they are not in opposition to the current government. If anything, they have joined the bandwagon. I don't think they know what it means to be an opposition party. Some of them are now more ZANU-PF than ZANU-PF itself. The first man to practice communism as leader of a nation, Vladimir Lenin, said that the best way to control the opposition is to lead it ourselves. That explains Sengezo Chabangu. The CCC is just a mess. This has caused prominent Chamisa supporters like Cooksman to issue a public apology, apologizing for his role in campaigning for the CCC in 2023, given the recent events of the CCC capture by the regime. Even Kudamsa Siwa, the man who designed the CCC logo, also issued a public apology, apologizing for associating with the CCC since its formation. Of course, the two gentlemen have nothing to apologize for. It's like apologizing for marching during the November 2017 coup. People did not march in order for ED to do what he is doing today. People genuinely, though mistakenly, believed that the removal of Robert Mugabe would put Zimbabwe on a new political trajectory. Even the opposition, Chamisa and Tsvangirai included, were also fooled by ZANU-PF, sold a dummy, hoodwinked into believing that that coup was about Zimbabweans when in fact it was all about a faction in ZANU-PF, Lacoste, which had been politically outmaneuvered and outmatched by the G40 faction, thereby seeking not only revenge but a complete takeover of the state and subsequently dominating the nation. So, when people were marching, they didn't know and fully grasp what was happening, what was at play. People thought they were fixing the country. The act of marching was carried out earnestly and honestly. So, there is no need for an apology. The only thing needed is to learn from that mistake and not repeat it again. Because the man who fooled the whole country into believing that the removal of Mugabe was about fixing our problems is just now trying to extend his term of office. He is Mugabelizing himself right before our very faces, right before our very eyes. First, in 2018, he said that he would respect the constitution. He said that he doesn't want a third term and that even if it was offered to him, he would reject it. But slowly but surely, we started hearing talk of this 2030 agenda. Now they have extended it to 2033 without elections. If Mnangagwa goes through with this, if we let him get away with this, what makes you think that he will gladly and willingly step down in 2033? The good thing is that all his plans to extend his term of office must go through two separate referendums, and these referendums can't be held at the same time. Remember, a referendum is just like an election, except in this case, we are not voting for a person. We are just voting either to approve or reject a constitutional amendment made by Parliament. And as I explained in my previous video, in order for ED's plans to go through, the Parliament of Zimbabwe must make two crucial constitutional amendments. First, to either remove or extend the presidential term limit from the current 2 terms, and secondly, to make it possible for Mnangagwa to benefit from that term limit extension, because currently a sitting president can't benefit from a term limit extension. Those are the 2 amendments which we as Zimbabweans will be asked to vote on in 2 separate referendums. However, what's good about it is that the success of ED's plans depend on your participation in the referendums. You have a chance to stop this nonsense by voting no in both referendums. ZANU-PF has never won a referendum by itself. In fact, it lost the February 2000 referendum in which people were being asked to vote for a proposed new constitution. ZANU-PF lost this referendum because the opposition and civic society groups, together with all progressive forces, were united against the adoption of the 2000 draft constitution. But this time around, ED needs not one but two separate referendums in order to go through with his plan. That means, as citizens, you have two opportunities to stop ED. Remember what I warned. If ED gets his term limit extension, it's game over. This is not about 2030, it's not about 2033. It's about a life presidency. It's about a dynasty. And because he is very determined, you can't rule out the possibility of rigging during these referendums. We all saw the chaos of the 2023 election. Who is to say that this won't be repeated during the two referendums? This is why Zimbabweans can't afford to sleep. ZANU-PF has already laid out the groundwork for ED's plan. What have we as citizens done? Do citizens even know and fully appreciate the gravity of the situation and what's at stake? When are Zimbabweans going to finally exercise their people power? United we stand, united we prevail. No to ED's third term, no to Mnangagwa's dynasty, no to the creation of another Mugabe life presidency, no to the mutilation of our constitution. To quote Winky D's words, he said, "Tombomira kusimbisana pakuda shanduko, pakuda chiginya hapachada zvemassaji." Otherwise, if we keep sleeping, we are going to be Putined. We are going to be Xi Jinpinged. But whatever happens, I'll be here to marinate you guys with all the details without fear or favor, because on this platform, we say it as it is. And as always, thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoy the content, please do like and share.